We do have our skydiver in the air, and he will be presenting the colors here momentarily. Jumping today for Jim Drummond, who is at the World Championships in the Czech Republic, is his friend Ben Kellogg, and he's also from Skydiving Ricks. Ben has been jumping for 20 years. He has jumped in 30 states. He is one of the rare jumpers that has 15 high altitude jumps from over 30,000 feet.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ben Kellogg.
Good evening. Welcome, everybody. It'll be 23 years on September 11th. Do you remember where you were on that fateful day? Please uncover. Oh God, our refuge and our hope. In our distress, we come quickly to you. Shock and horror of that tragic day have subsided, replaced now with an emptiness, a longing for an innocence lost. We come here remembering all those who lost their lives in New York, Washington, D.C., and Pennsylvania. Keep them in your loving care. Watch over all their families, most of them never having known closure. Heavenly Father, we are mindful of the sacrifice of the first responders who demonstrated the greatest love of all by laying down their lives for friends. We commit their souls to your eternal care and celebrate their gifts to a fallen humanity. Watch over our first responders now who daily face the dangers of their jobs. And last, Heavenly Father, watch over our men and women serving in the military all over the world. Have their leaders make good decisions and bring as many home safely as possible. And help us to heal the differences tearing our country apart today, so that we may always be one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Amen.
When I lay my head down every night and go to sleep in peace, I can stay there knowing all is well while you're standing on your feet. Keeping watch, protecting shore to shore in the air and ocean soon, defending freedom at all costs for the red, the white, and blue. Thank you, oh, thank
this evening. And I want to tell you a little bit about the awards that we're giving away here tonight. Tonight's awards are donated by Joe Lane in memory of his father, Joseph O. Lane. Joseph O. Lane was a World War II Army combat veteran serving 2 battlefield commissions. The first at the age of 19 in Germany. He was awarded both a Silver Star and a Bronze Star, and also the Purple Heart with the cluster while serving with K Company of the 406th Regiment, 102nd Infantry Division. He was discharged as a second lieutenant in 1946. He was a member of the National Order of Battlefield Commissions, and shortly before his death, he received a diploma award from the French authorities relating to the liberation of France during World War II. So the awards tonight are in memory of Joseph O. Lane, and we want to thank his son Joe for donating those as well. Our presenters of the awards tonight is Chris Wardman. She's a Gold Star mother who lost her youngest son, Sergeant Robert Carr, U.S. Army in 2007 in Eldora, Baghdad, while he was on patrol. And also Susan Krawcheck. She's the Director of Veteran Services in Mahoning County. She's a retired Army veteran and also served in Iraq. They are right up here. Chris and Susan. All right, let's get down to our first honoree here tonight, and that would be U.S. Army First Lieutenant Arnold Bokesh. Arnold Bokesh is an Austintown native and a 1934 graduate of Austintown Fitch High School. He is honored on this day for his brave actions and fulfilling military service. Immediately after high school, he joined the Ohio National Guard and was placed on active duty when the United States entered World War II in 1941. He attended Officer Candidate School and was in the 30th Division, 117th Infantry Regiment, and was the second in a wave of soldiers who arrived in Normandy several days after the D-Day invasion. Lieutenant Bokesh spent a lot of time in Normandy, France, and in the European theater. He helped to liberate a section of France and one of the Nazi concentration camps. He was also in the Battle of the Bulge, participated in the aftermath of the Normandy Massacre, and was in the second wave of soldiers in Korea. Lieutenant Bokesh earned his first Purple Heart after being shot at Saint-Lô, France. He was shot a second time, also in France, and his third Purple Heart was entered when he was shot during the Battle of the Bulge on the border of France and Germany. He earned his Bronze Star for heroic achievement in action in Holland on September 12, 1944. And this is what his commendation had to say. It said, First Lieutenant Arnold Bokesh, 117th Infantry Regiment, United States Army, is awarded this Bronze Star for heroic achievement in action on 12 September 1944 in Holland. Well, his section and 2 machine gun platoons into support of the rifle companies which had encountered an enemy strong point. Finding that the road given him was on the route of advancement and was under heavy enemy fire, to find an alternative route to approach. His efforts were successful despite the enemy shell fire, and he returned to his men, quickly organized them, and led them up to the support position without casualties. Lieutenant Bokesh's brave conduct was a profound inspiration to his men, and the supporting fire from his weapons materially assisted in eliminating the enemy resistance. And he was awarded the Bronze Star for that. After World War II, Lieutenant Bokesh served on the school staff at Fort Knox, Kentucky, and was ordered to Korea in June of 1950 to serve in the combat zone of the 31st Infantry Regiment of the 7th Division. In 1952, he returned to Youngstown on the staff of the 929th Engineering Construction Battalion and commander in 1957. In 1959, he attended the Armory School at Fort Knox, Kentucky. He was assigned to the staff of the 7th Armored Battalion, which assumed command of the battalion in 1962. Lieutenant Bokesh retired from the Army in 1969 as a lieutenant colonel after 30 years of service. He passed away in 1973 at the age of 57. He also earned 5 campaign stars, plus he also got medals from France and Belgium. This year, on May 3rd, Lieutenant Bokesh was inducted into the Ohio Military Hall of Fame for valor in Kentucky, or in Columbus rather, and accepting the award for him today is his son, Dan. U.S. Marine Corps Sergeant William Wagenjack.
Yeah!
William Wagenjack. Obviously, he has some friends here today. He was born in 1934 in Port Huron, Michigan. He joined the Marines 2 weeks after graduating from Marysville High School in June of 1952. Back then, it was either join the branch you wanted or you were getting drafted anyways. Sergeant Wagenjack completed his basic training at San Diego at the Marine Corps Recruiting Depot. After basic training, he went to Camp Pendleton in California to complete his combat training, and then it was on to Airman School in Jacksonville, Florida. In Jacksonville, he worked as an instructor for 8 weeks and then left to attend Heavy Equipment Operating School, where he worked on aircraft hydraulics. Sergeant Wagenjack was then sent to K-2 Base Camp in Korea in July of 1953, and he landed in Japan in July 26th. He then took a train to the Air Force Base in Japan. He returned back to the States in October 1954 and went to the Marine Corps Air Station in Cherry Point, North Carolina, and ended up at the Marine Aircraft Repair Squadron 27 until he was discharged in June of 1955. After discharge, Sergeant Wagenjack worked at Warren Tool for 16 years before being hired by Mahoney Valley Cartage and Air Cargo, where he worked for the next 20 years. He's been on the Newton Falls Honor Guard for over 20 years, a life member of VFW Post 1090, AMVETS Post 290, and the Warren Moose Lodge 186. He also belongs to the American Legion in Lake Milton, the Army, Navy, and the Eagles Club. His service medals include Korean Service Medal, National Defense Service Medal, and the United Nations Service Medal. U.S. Marine Corps Sergeant William Wagenjack. Our next honoree this afternoon is U.S. Army Corporal William E. Gutierrez. William graduated in 1967 from South High School. He enlisted in the Army on September 7, 1967, attended basic training at Fort Knox, Kentucky. From boot camp, he went to Fort Still, Oklahoma for artillery school. His MOS was gunny, and he was sent to Vietnam on January 1st, 1968. He was attached to the 2nd Battalion, 94th Artillery, Bravo Country as a wireman. He was sent to Camp Carroll off a fire base at the DMZ to support the Marines at Con Tao, and all other operations around the DMZ. On September 10, 1968, at approximately 10 p.m., a 3-man command bunker took a direct hit from the North Vietnamese. 2 men died and 1 was wounded. At night, there was complete blackouts until sunrise. Well, in Vietnam, Youngstown was on the national news about the race riots back home, and he was worried about his parents and siblings. He was honorably discharged from the Army on September 5th, 1969, and received the following medals: the National Defense Service Medal, Army Commendation Medal, Purple Heart, Vietnam Service Medal, Vietnam Campaign Medal, and the Presidential Unit Citation. He has 4 brothers and 1 sister, and after service he worked at GM in Lordstown for 38 years and retired in 2008. There you go, U.S. Corporal William E. Boudier. Our next nominee, our next honoree this afternoon is U.S. Sergeant Richard M. Watson. Richard M. Watson was born in Youngstown, Ohio, October 15, 1946. He graduated in 1965 from Cardinal Mooney High School. He went to YSU for 3 years in the business management field. Sergeant Watson was drafted into the Army in August of 1968 and completed training as a field artillery crewman at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. In December of 1969, he received orders to report to the 90th Replacement Battalion in Vietnam. On several occasions, his artillery battalion came under mortar attacks by the VC while they were on self-illumination in case of ground attacks. In April of 1969, his unit was 30 miles north of Saigon at Fire Support Base Riley, which was surrounded by 2 friendly villages. His unit was warned to be alert for possible sniper fire. They had just unloaded all of their rounds, and it was dusk, and they got fire from the village. Sergeant Watson immediately hit the ground and crawled to his M16 to return fire. Unfortunately, his unit had suffered casualties. His unit was also supported by Army troops in South Vietnam along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. He was honorably discharged from the Army in June of 1970. His medals received in service were the National Defense Service Medal, the Army Commendation Medal, Good Conduct Medal, Vietnam Service Medal, and the Bronze Star Vietnam Campaign. Medals with 60 device and a Presidential Unit Citation. He worked for American Welding as plant manager and retired in 2007. Richard lives in Hubbard with his wife Linda. They have 2 daughters, Wendy and Shelley, a grandson Scott, and a granddaughter Lauren, who he loves to go fishing with. Ladies and gentlemen, U.S. Sergeant Richard M. Watson. Honoree today is Linda Jones, United States Air Force. Linda attended Austintown Fitch High School, graduated in 1987. At the age of 17 and 2 weeks after graduation, Linda went to the Air Force and completed her boot camp training at Lackland Air Force Base, San Antonio, Texas. After boot camp, Linda completed her tech school training at Shepherd Air Force Base in Wichita Falls, Texas. Her tech school was the electromechanical training as a telephone central office switching equipment specialist. During her technical training, she advanced into leadership, reaching the level of Yellow Rope Flight Leader, responsible for leading a flight of 200 airmen. As a telephone switcher, she worked in the interior wiring of phone lines and installation. She worked as a telephone switcher for 4 years and later transferred into administration and personnel, to which Linda provided support for the unit. Linda served in the Air Force and the Ohio Air National Guard. Her National Guard base is located in Zanesville, Ohio, the 220th EIS, an engineering installation squadron. Additional training assignments include Tinker Air Force Base and Kessler Air Force Base, to which her unit was transported by C-130s. Linda served 8 years from 1987 to 1985, 6 years of active duty, and 2 years inactive with the United States Air Force. She was honorably discharged as an E5 sergeant. Linda grew up in a large family of seven siblings. Her decision to join the Air Force may have influenced her brother. She followed her brother's path into joining the Air Force to afford an opportunity to go to college. Linda and 4 of her brothers are all based out of the same unit at the same time. As you can see, it's a family thing. She attended YSU and finished her degree at Malone University, earning a Bachelor of Arts in Organizational Leadership. She lives in Austintown with her husband Rob, married 34 years. She has 2 children, Alyssa and Anthony, and 2 grandbabies, Owen and Noah. Linda has the Air Force Training Ribbon, Defense Ribbon, Marksmanship Ribbon, and the Air Force Longevity Service Award. Ladies and gentlemen, Linda Jones. And our flowers for the ladies today are presented by the VFW Post 4237 out of Austintown, and presenting is Diane Pfeiffer. Our next honoree is U.S. Army Sergeant Jim Camerly. Jim Carmody graduated from Acton Bucknell High School in 1965. A few months later, he began his college career at Taylor University, a private Christian college in Indiana. In June of 1969, he received a BA degree in business administration. He soon was classified as 1A and was drafted in December 1969. He began his career in the Army in January 1970 and was sent to Fort Campbell, Kentucky for basic training. Following basic training, Jim was sent to Fort Polk, Louisiana for an AIT. In June of 1970, he was sent to NCO school in Fort Benning, Georgia. Upon completion of NCO school 4 months later, he earned the rank of Sergeant E5. He then received orders for Fort Riley, Kansas, and was assigned to the Big Red 1. In December 1970, he received orders for South Vietnam. Following 1 month Christmas leave, he began his tour of duty in South Vietnam. He was assigned to the 101st Airborne Division. Jim was a sergeant of a mortar platoon which operated out of 7 different fire bases with the 101st. He was honorably discharged in January of 1972 and returned to his home in Canton, having been awarded a Bronze Star along with 3 Vietnam Service Medals. After returning to the U.S., Jim found it difficult to readjust to civilian life. After a period of readjustment, he became an insurance salesman for about 6 months, but felt being called into some form of Christian ministry. He enrolled at the United Theological Seminary in Dayton, Ohio, and 3 years later with a master's degree in divinity. After graduation, he went into a full-time ministry and has served as a senior or advocate pastor at several different churches in Northeast Ohio over the years. Jim also was employed by the U.S. Postal Service for 15 years. After retiring, he has been a volunteer driver for Meals on Wheels in Mahoning County, and in 2005 became an active member of the Disabled Veterans of America Chapter 2. Jim is a member of the Honor Guard and Color Guard teams and currently serves as the 2nd Vice Commander, Chapter 2. Jim has been married to Wanda for 45 years. They have 2 adult sons, Paul and Joe, a daughter-in-law, Katie, and 1 granddaughter, Gabby. Ladies and gentlemen, U.S. Sergeant Jim Camerly. Jim Carmody, ladies and gentlemen. Up next, we have U.S. Marine Corps Corporal Philip Gonzalez. Got some friends here, Phil. Phil was born in Puerto Rico on February 5th, 1947. His father came to Lorain, Ohio in 1952 and worked for the Norfolk and Western Railroad as a laborer. After saving enough money, he was able to bring his children to Ohio. Phil graduated in 1966 from Lorain Admiral King High School, joined the Marine Corps in February of 1967. After boot camp at Parris Island, South Carolina, and advanced infantry training at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, he received orders to Camp Pendleton in San Diego, California. There he was trained in escape and evasion training and was sent to South Vietnam. During his 10th month of being in the country, he was wounded in combat during the Tet Offensive in the ancient capital of Hue. After recuperating in Japan from his wound, he was sent back to Vietnam. He attained the rank of corporal during his service at Norfolk, Virginia. While he was stationed at Cherry Point, North Carolina, while on leave, he took a trip to Youngstown, Ohio, and got engaged to his wife, Mary, and they were eventually married on June 14th, 1969, and they're still married by the grace of God for 55 years. They're blessed with 4 children, Adriana, Madeline, Philippe, and Leela, along with 10 grandchildren. Corporal Gonzalez was discharged from the Marine Corps on March 6, 1970, and received the following medals: National Defense Service Medal, Vietnam Service Medal with 4 stars, Vietnam Campaign Medal, Purple Heart, Presidential Unit Citation, Combat Action Ribbon, and a Good Conduct Medal. Along with his wife, they are very active as Catholic Church musicians and many other ministries. U.S. Marine Corps Corporal Philip Gonzalez. All right, up next we have U.S. Army Specialist William Cabot. William Caban. William was also born in Puerto Rico on August 25th, 1949. In 1950, his father moved to Ohio to chase the American dream of working for Youngstown Sheet and Tube and Camel. His mother, sister, and brother joined him later to start their new life. In 1967, he graduated from Camel Memorial High School and then attended Youngstown State University. While at YSU, he decided to leave college and volunteer for the United States Army. In 1969, he was sent to Fort Dix, New Jersey for basic training, where he became a platoon leader. Specialist Caban completed infantry training also at Fort Dix as a squad leader. After training, he received orders to South Vietnam, where he served with the 1st Aviation B Troop, 3rd of the 17th Air Cavalry. He volunteered to be a door gunner on a UH-1 Huey helicopter. Specialist Caban was honorarily discharged on October 21st of 1970, receiving the following medals: the National Defense Service Medal, Vietnam Service Medal, Vietnam Campaign Medal, Aircraft Crewman's Badge, and Air Medal. Upon returning home and adjusting a civilian life, he married Carol, and they had 4 wonderful children, 3 daughters and a son. Specialist Caban worked for GM for over 30 years and had also returned back to YSU. With a lifelong passion for fishing, he attained a captain's license and started a fishing business on Lake Erie called La Copa Caban Charters, and he ran that for over 44 years. He's a proud member of the Disabled Veterans of America Chapter 2 in Austintown, and they want to thank all our officers and all our DAV members here for their continued support. Ladies and gentlemen, U.S. Army Specialist William Caban. All right, our next honoree, U.S. Marine Corps Corporal Iron Vicenzini. Ivan was born February 10, 1945 in Aliquippa, Pennsylvania. He graduated high school in 1963, attended YSU for 3 years until he joined the Marines in October of 1966. After boot camp at Parris Island, South Carolina, and avionics training at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and Cherry Point, North Carolina, he received orders to Vietnam in June of 1968. During his tour of duty, he was an avionics technician and helicopter door gunner for 7 months. He returned to the States in September of 1969 and was stationed at the New River Air Station in Jacksonville, North Carolina, where he worked on Huey helicopters. He was honorably discharged from the Marine Corps in October of 1970, and he received the following medals: the National Defense Service Medal, the Vietnam Service Medal with 1 star, Vietnam Campaign Medal with device, Good Conduct Medal, and Air Crew Wings for flying on a helicopter. He settled in Struthers after his military obligation, used his GI Bill to finish his degree in electrical engineering at Youngstown State University. Shortly after graduation, he was recruited by Hughes Aircraft Company, and he and his family moved to Los Angeles. He retired in 2006 and moved back to the Youngstown area and is a member of the Disabled Veterans Chapter 2, and he is married to Sophia for 53 years. They have 3 daughters, Sharon, Angela, Holly, and 2 granddaughters. All right, our next honoree, Major Michael Joseph Bryceland, U.S. Army, retired. Driving through a blizzard in Youngstown, his parents got to Northside Hospital just in time for his birth on March 10, 1951. His first Army contract was signed in March of 1969 while he awaited graduation from Cheney High School. Fort Campbell, Kentucky provided basic training, and Fort Lee, Virginia added advanced individual training in stock control and accounting, plus promotion to a Spec 4 class. In 1971 was spent with the 173rd Airborne Brigade in Vietnam. In 1972 to 1975, he spent working at the Ohio Works of U.S. Steel full-time until earning a degree in psychology and a Reserve Officer Training Course commission as an Armor Cavalry Second Lieutenant. 4 years with the 1st Infantry Division in Germany, 2 years with the 24th Infantry Division at Fort Stewart, Georgia. He went back to Germany, to Heidelberg, Gießen, and Frankfurt. He was transferred to the 3rd Armored Division, G3, and took the division to Saudi Arabia during the Persian Gulf War in 1991. 13 years at General Electric in Circleville, Ohio, ended with a phone call to return to Iraq from the U.S. State Department Foreign Service. 2008 and 2009 was spent on the Provincial Reconstruction Team at El Anbar Province in Fallujah. 2010 and 2011 was at a security site shield in the red zone of Baghdad. Along the way, he was awarded a Master of Science Economics from the University of Utah, a second Master's in Education from Boston University, and a doctorate from the University of Southern California. 25 years was spent teaching college at night and weekends, mostly economics, statistics, accounting, and management. Living in Austintown, enjoying the work with the Disabled American Veterans Chapter 2 is now the focus of his life. Ladies and gentlemen, Major Michael Joseph Bryceland. honoree this afternoon is U.S. Staff Sergeant Eddie R. Williams. Eddie, like everybody else out here, also got a lot of fans here today. Eddie was born in Madrid, Spain in 1966. After graduating from Rayen High School, I put myself in there. I thought there was only one high school in Youngstown, Wilson, right? Am I right on that? No. Okay. Eddie's saying no way. Eddie's a proud graduate of Rayen High School. Graduated in June of 1984. Staff Sergeant Williams entered basic training at Fort Knox, Kentucky in September of 1984. After graduating in January of 1986 from advanced training, he was sent to Germany to serve with M Company, 3rd of the 11th ARC, Bad Hersfeld, Germany, which at the time was part of the Fulda Gap. While in Germany, Specialist Williams attended the German Head Start and participated in several training missions and gunneries as a tank loader, driver, and eventually gunner. Specialist Williams also received accreditation as a gunner on the German Leopard tank in October of 1985. Sadly, in November of 1986, Specialist Williams was involved in an auto accident which took the life of his first wife and left him in a coma. After several months in the hospital, Specialist Williams was medically discharged from the Army in June of 1987 at Ireland Army Hospital at Fort Knox and placed on temporary disability retirement list. After 2 years removed from active duty, Specialist Williams sent an appeal to the Department of the Army requesting reinstatement. The appeal was granted and Specialist Williams returned to active duty in January of 1989. After returning to active duty, he picked up right where he left off by achieving success and promotions while attending many schools, and in July of 1993 was enrolled in the Excellence in Armor program. In September 1985, Staff Sergeant Williams completed drill sergeant school at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and he would serve his time as a drill sergeant at Fort Knox, Kentucky, after which he was stationed at Fort Carson, Colorado, where he was medically discharged from the Army on December 12, 1999. Staff Sergeant Williams currently serves as chaplain of the Disabled Veterans of America, Chapter 2 in Austintown. He also enjoys helping people by delivering Meals on Wheels, as well as assisting people as any way he can. Some of his awards are Army Commendation Medal number 2 award, Army Achievement Medal number 3 award, Good Conduct Medal number 4, National Defense Medal, Army Service Ribbon, Overseas Ribbon, and Expert Marksmanship with a Rifle. Ladies and gentlemen, U.S. Army Staff Sergeant Eddie R. Williams. Now, how about that, to coming back and re-enlist and get back into active service, boy? You got to give it up for Eddie. Our next honoree this evening, U.S. Army Specialist 4, Donald L. White. Donald L. White was born and raised in Boardman, Ohio with his 3 brothers and 2 sisters. He graduated from Boardman High School in June of 1971 and in March of 1972 enlisted in the United States Army. Specialist White was trained as an armor crewman and assigned to the 194th Armored Brigade at Fort Knox, Kentucky. Besides their own training, his unit worked the armored school training for various National Guard, Army Reserve units, ROTC, and West Point cadets. In March of 1975, with the rank of Specialist 4, he was honorably discharged from the Army. He started work with Republic Steel and in April of 1987 married his wife Linda. They have 3 boys, Donnie, Matthew, and Eric, who are all Eagle Scouts. When the mill closed, he started working at the post office as a window clerk, then transferred to motor vehicle and transferring again to become a letter carrier. While the boys were in Scouts, he volunteered as an adult leader in a lot of positions for over 20 years. And he earned the Silver Beaver Award from the Greater Western Reserve Council and the Founders Award from the Order of the Arrow Lodge. Those are two very high honors from the Boy Scouts. Specialist White joined the Disabled Veterans of America Chapter 2 in 1985 and became an active member of that organization in 2015 when he retired. Ladies and gentlemen, U.S. Army Specialist Donald White. We have our final honoree of the evening. Richard Eisenbraun, U.S. Marine Corps, PFC 5th Forest Recon, Vietnam. Richard was born on January 1st, 1947, and has been a resident of Youngstown his entire life. Here we go. He attended Paul C. Bunn Grade School and Wilson High School. I knew there had to be somebody up here from Wilson High School. All right. Anyways, he joined the Marines in 1966 and attended boot camp in San Diego, California. After infantry training, he was assigned to the 5th Forest Recon Unit, where he was trained in many fields. He also had a second highest rifle score with the 5th Recon. He was assigned as a truck driver and was transferred to Okinawa, where he worked as a carburetor ignition specialist. Richard was then sent to Vietnam and was stationed at Quang Tri, where he hauled ammunition into the LZ zone. He was then sent off with the 312th India Battery, where he did various jobs until 1969 when he was transferred home to 29 Palms Missile Detachment and was discharged 6 months early in 1970 due to his service in Vietnam. Rich and his wife Linda have been married for 51 years. They have 2 children, Joseph and Julie. Rick earned the National Defense Medal, the Good Conduct Medal, and the Vietnam Service Medal. Richard Eisenbraun. Ladies and gentlemen, how about a nice hand for all our honorees here this afternoon? What a great bunch of men. You know, we've been doing this now for 17 years. And you know what? You see these guys serve their country, and then they continue with their service through Meals on Wheels and veteran groups and Boy Scouts, and they just continue on. How about a nice hand for everybody up here one more time, please? All right, up next is our 21 gun salute from our friends at Amves Post 1112. Oh, and we also have VFW Post 236 and VFW Post 3332. And taps will be by Luke Wharton. right. If you guys would like to come up and meet and greet our honorees, feel free to come up and shake hands and thank them for their service. And also, we want to have a nice hand for all the veterans that we have here in attendance this evening. And we have honored 244 veterans at this program so far. So come on up and shake hands with these fine folks.